really good.
I've tried to make my own when it comes to that stuff, though, and it just doesn't turn out the same way as the stuff you buy in a store. And probably is more healthy.
Mom's making some really good stuff now. Her friend gave her the recipe. She's using like some kind of oh, some kind of salad dressing mix. It's awesome. It's really good. Sorry, guys, we're talking food.
Yeah, we're talking food, cooking. This is kind of the pre-show stuff that you guys don't get to hear unless, of course, you're watching it on the webinar. And tonight we're not.
We're usually very boring.
Yes, it's very boring.
I definitely am boring in real life.
We're talking
to that.
We are talking cooking and such. Well, thank you guys for joining us tonight on our first show of the week. It's been one of those weeks where I actually got away for a few days with the family and such, and getting back together, get back in the office today. It was like putting fires out all over with the place today.
I'm sending John a message on Facebook at like 8:15. Dude, are we doing something tonight or what?
I look at that and it's like, oh gosh,
I'm on my way home. I'm just relaxed and just making sure we're still on. That's all.
There's things running here and there, and found out today. I spent from about 10 this morning until about 7 o'clock tonight on one line of code on the website. One simple line, and it was messing up the formatting, and it was taking all the things and making everything that should be 4 columns wide or the width of the typical web page. It was putting it all in one column. So if anyone was out on the website today and was bouncing and saying, "What in the world's going on with the Disc Jockey News website?" Well, it was
John was just doing stuff.
Stupid.
So you had a family weekend this weekend?
Yeah, we did. We got a chance to go up to the headwaters of the Mississippi, which is up in northern Minnesota, where the Mississippi starts, and got to bike and hike, and went. Actually decided as long as I'm sweaty from biking and hiking, I'm going to start doing a little jogging. So I ended up putting on about 70 miles with propelling myself over the weekend. So
that's pretty impressive. Well, I gigged. I mean, I gigged.
You were working, yeah.
Work stuff. And I had a really interesting wedding that I had to go to Madison, Wisconsin, which is, I don't know, probably about an hour, 20 minutes from here, maybe. And it was in a library, but a really cool library. And it was interesting. I did a ceremony, but I did not do dinner. And then I did the reception part. And it was fun. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of fun. I had some fun with my uplighting as well. That stuff I hadn't really tried before. I tried and it worked out real well.
So what did you end up doing during that dinner time?
Well, dinner was in a different room. And they really didn't need me to be in there. Well, we determined I really didn't need to be in there because I really didn't. The hall had their own PA system,
sure,
and microphone, and they were really nice there. So the hall suggested that I just fill a little iPod up with some pre-recorded mix and plug it into the system. Mm-hmm. And when it was time for anybody to do the toast, they would pause it for me, and the people would do the toast, which was fine. It was a very, relaxed thing. I went in there, and it's not like my element was missing or anything from the dinner part. And it gave me time to light the room because there was ceremony in the main room. And then the dinner, of course, was the time for the banquet facility to come in and flip the room to dancing. I couldn't really set my lights up until the flip happened.
Sure.
So I needed that time to set up lighting, so it was perfect. That I didn't have to monkey around in there at all with playing music and being a mic tech. They had it all there and they took care of it. They had their own screens there for slideshow too. So that was nice.
Very nice.
But what I did was, because I thought blue, right? I don't know. Well, it was 2 guys. It was a same-sex wedding. Mm-hmm. Real nice guys. And I thought, boy, blue, and the room just kind of screamed, I want to be blue. And one of my grooms said, I like it, but I like green too. Can we incorporate that? And I thought, yeah, we can. How the heck are we going to do this? I don't want to stripe the room, blue, green, blue, green, blue, green. So I thought to myself, what color pops the most? And to me, I'm thinking green pops more than blue pops. So if we're going to incorporate green, let's put it in the focal point area. Well, what's my focal point area during dancing? A dance floor.
Your dance floor, certainly.
So everything anywhere near the dance floor was green, and everything else was blue. and it looked great and it worked well. And boy, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed playing for this group. They were tons of fun. I had families from like northeastern Indiana all the way through, Wisconsin, Illinois. It was a mixed group. It wasn't just like, two gay guys and other gay friends. I mean, everybody was there. So it was neat to play for that crowd, and the music selection was different. I wasn't given any direction on what to play for music, really, which was surprising. They had some very strong opinions about what I programmed for them for dinner. For the dancing part, I said, well, what do you want to hear? And they said, well, I think our families would appreciate a polka or two.
Sure.
That was it. That was the only thing they said. So I ended up going I did a lot of disco from the 70s all the way through the early 90s. Energy music, things like CNC Music Factory. I pulled out some tracks that I haven't played since my multi-op days. I mean, way back in the late 80s, early 90s. Like, we thought, okay, a rock song, right? Dancing Dave Ellsworth was with me. And he's like, let's do a rock set. I'm like, okay, I don't know, but we'll try it, because they were really disco people. So I put on the AC/DC track, and they did dance, but it wasn't as strong as I would have liked it to have been. And Dave's sitting there screaming, Def Leppard, I'm like, no, I don't want to go there. I want to get out of this rock set. I was like, what can I get out of a rock set with? And I was just racking my brain. I thought, ooh, I'm going to try something. I think it'll be real, real good. Something I haven't played in years was the Eurythmics' Would I Lie to You?
Sure.
Because it's a rock song, but it's the Eurythmics. So it's got that new wave vibe, and it's definitely energy for this crowd. And boy, it worked good. I was really happy that I chose to do that one. I was being brave. I closed with Wake Me Up Before You Go, though. I mean, that's how brave I was being. And that song's always kind of like, it's either going to really work or it's going to really bomb. I don't know what it's going to do. And I closed with it because I was just feeling that confident, and it worked out. But a lot of fun. It was a great gig. It was a lot of work to get up to the point where we went and actually, had everything down in a timeline, but it wasn't difficult, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
It was work, but not difficult work. It wasn't like I was reinventing the wheel on anything.
And some weddings feel like that.
Yeah, it was a lot of changes. We want to do this instead. Okay, that's cool. Some stuff was perhaps not something I recommended, but it's their party, whatever you'd like.
Give me an example of something that.
Well, they were going to do, oh boy, let's see. What did they change that was kind of like, are you sure you want to do that? We were going to do a welcome speech to get everybody into dining.
Okay.
That's how it was going to work. So they got married, they had a little cocktail time, and then we were going to do the welcome speech where we said, hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. We love you all, blah, blah, blah. By the way, it's dinner time. Let's go ahead into the dining hall. That would have been everybody's cue to go eat, right? But they didn't want to do that. They wanted to do a welcome speech in the dining hall, which was fine, but there was no way to get everyone in the dining hall besides trying to herd them in there. And they didn't close the bar before dinner, so people were still lined up at the bar. It just took a long time to get through dinner. I was hoping if we would have done it like a real cut and dry thing where we closed the bar for 10 minutes or whatever, just to kind of herd everyone in, we could have gotten through dinner faster and had a little more time for dancing.
Yep.
But they didn't want to do it that way, and that's fine. Whatever they want to do, is cool. It's their party. I'm just the coach. I'm not the boss. I can offer suggestions, with things that I feel like will work best, but if they want to do something completely different, that's okay. It's all right. I don't know everything. I'm just throwing ideas out there. So.
Yeah, and sometimes it's when they're throwing out some of their thoughts and ideas, and that's great to get their input and such, and you're just like, oh, this is just not going to work, whatever it may be. And then there are times where it's like, oh, wow, that really did work. They actually knew their audience or knew their guests or knew how their family were going to react to this thing that would be really lame 90% of the time. But in this particular one instance, that worked.
Did we talk about rehearsals last week?
We did talk a little bit about the whole rehearsal.
Ceremony rehearsal?
Yeah, we've touched base on that a little bit of where you went with that, and specifically talking pricing or as far as getting compensated for the rehearsal. time
The question that I get a lot from a lot of people is why is in the rehearsal? Why is this important?
And that surprised me as I was looking through the comments. The number of folks who were like, no, I don't even want to see that. Not they don't, but I don't care to see the couple. I just going to show up and do their thing, which that exists. But to be so animately against the idea, even if you're being compensated for your time, it just I don't know.
Well, the one of the gay weddings that I did last year, I guess, was for Carlos and Ramon, nice guys, and I got to know them real well. I think I talked about this last week, so I won't beat it into the ground. But basically, they were very much on the whole, philosophy that hey, we're equals, and this is just the most normal thing in the world, and we want to express this to our family with our event. We don't want them to go to our event and feel like that it's from outer space. We want them to go to our event and feel like, hey, this is the most normal thing in the world, And then when I was at the rehearsal when they were, the way they arranged it, which I had nothing to do with. I think Carlos went to the altar with the clergy in the wedding party. And then Ramon came in with his mother and sister to walk him down the aisle. And, I was there at rehearsal watching this. And at the end, they said, well, what do you think? I said, I didn't like it. Well, why not? I said, well, you guys were talking about equality, but you've got this set up like Carlos is the groom and Ramon is the bride. I don't like that.
Right.
So what do you suggest? I said, well, I know Ramon really wants to walk down the aisle with his mom and his sister. But how about this? There's like this little bridge and this brook going under it that they were going to go over. How about when I start playing the wedding march, if you will, that, Ramon comes in with his mom and his sister, and then Carlos starts coming up the aisle to meet halfway. They meet halfway, they hug, kiss, whatever, and finish the walk to the altar together. And they said, well, I love it. And that's what they did, and that was the big tearjerker moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I suggested this to the gentlemen this weekend, Andy and Fred. They're like, yeah, we love that. Let's do that. And they did that. And the other thing is they had kind of planned everything. And typically you let the client plan all the music they want and how they want to do things. The song that they wanted to come into is Queen, Somebody to Love. And they had, let's see, a flower girl and a ring bearer. And then Andy's daughter, who was like, I don't know, she must have been maybe 20, early 20s or late teens.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to have everybody come into it. And, whatever, the song's long enough.
Okay.
Kids will come down and then we'll come down. And I thought about it and I'm like, you know what? Let's not do that. I decided this like at the rehearsal. I'm like, I don't like it. Why? I said, you guys should come into that song together. What do the kids come into? I said, who cares? Let's bring them into Canon and D or something.
Right.
If I have to loop it, I will. But as soon as the kids are down, we kill it. And then you guys come into Somebody to Love. And it was the moment. That was the moment, where everybody laughed because it was funny that, they chose that song. And, even the pace of the song was funny for coming down the aisle because it's not really slow, particularly. It's slow, but it's more of a waltz slow. It's kind of a waltzy sounding song. So it's not something you march down an aisle to.
I was going to say, how did you start it?
Oh, right. The whole thing with the, find me. From the beginning.
Okay.
That was the impact. And I cranked it. I did Canon D kind of soft. And when I faded out of that and faded into the Queen song, I just pumped it. Everybody knew it was coming. It was cool. It worked well.
So if you're not familiar with the song, this is the way the song begins.
Now, by the time the piano part started, that's when they kind of came into view.
Oh, nice.
So it worked out. And then that little thing at the beginning is, and then they go into that. So
very cool.
It worked, It worked. It wasn't what they had planned. It wasn't what we talked about. But I liked it better, and they really liked it. And the audience reacted very well to it.
Oh, yeah.
It was punchy. So what's my point? Maybe there's something to attending these rehearsals. Maybe there's something to it. Now, we had it worked out where they did the rehearsal right before the ceremony, like an hour and a half before, because they wanted the kids to be really comfortable.
Sure.
Because there were some little kids. Oh my gosh. The kids were just the sweetest things. The little boy, oh God, I felt so bad for this little boy. He was up there crossing his legs. He had to go so bad and he could not hold it. But he stood there like a champ in baby blue pants and did it. And afterward, he acted like nothing happened. He was running around in his boxer shorts the rest of the night. It was the best. It was the best. He was such a trooper through this whole thing. And his dad said, yeah, I warned him about drinking all those Sprites. I'm like, oh, the poor kid. But he wasn't crying or anything. And he must have been like 8 or 9, you know, a kid that would be bothered by something like that. But he didn't care. And this little girl was the sweetest thing. I wanted to just take her home with me. She was the sweetest thing. She must have been, maybe about the same age, maybe a little younger. And she was just nothing but positive all night long. I mean, all night long, she'd come by me and say, hey, DJ, you're playing great music. I mean, all night was the sweetest thing.
Oh, nice.
But when they were having dinner, she was done and she was kind of walking around. I had set everything up. I was working on lights. And she came up and said something about Taylor Swift, you know, and Katy Perry. I said, well, how about I play it for you right now? Just for you. I can't crank it up. That would be so cool. And she just ate it up. I did like a half hour of Katy Perry and the other girl, what's her name? Taylor Swift for her. And she just loved it. I didn't have to play it for the rest of the night. And the little boy came up to me. I was doing a real deep disco set. Like I was doing this, I did Denise Williams, I'll Have the Next Dance. And I was doing, I think I did Cerrone Super Nature. I did all this deep stuff. I did Susie Lane's Harmony. And this little boy who, you know, has been in his boxer shorts at this point, comes up to me and says, what kind of music is this? I've never heard it before. I said, this is disco. Old disco. I like it. I said, it's very old. He said, how old is it? I said, well, I think I was probably about your age when this stuff came out. Oh my gosh, that's so old, but I really like it.
That's so...
I had this group of women as well who were there because what happened was they came into Somebody to Love. The sermon was very short and they went down the aisle like they were done after they pronounced them married. They wanted We Are Family by Sister Sledge. So I'm thinking, okay, I play that song and then I go into cocktail music and I'm like, screw that, I'm going to keep playing disco. So that's when I just kept going disco. And there were these women there. And they would come up to me and they said, we heard that the DJ was about our age and we knew the music was going to be great. This is real music. They ate it up. Like they heard stuff that they didn't expect to hear.
Brian, that is a great marketing angle. The DJ, for the time, because we struggle with this as we're getting into our 40s and nearing 50.
Yeah.
But knowing that the DJ is of that ilk or that pedigree,
right?
You'll know that you're going to have good music at your event.
That was such a cool thing to hear. It's like, well, thank you. So, and this is great. This is real music. You're playing real music. Like, oh. You know what? I read these folks right. I read them right. There was a video I did last week. An incident I had last week. I think we were talking about my truck was dead on the road.
Yes. I didn't get to because shortly thereafter I hit the road off for the camping trip. So what ended up happening with that?
Well, what did I say it was?
You were thinking starter.
I was thinking it was a starter.
Yep, and but you just weren't sure. And as we left our after the show, we were talking about it, and you were going to go get the wrench and go rap on that starter a couple of times and see if you could get
a hammer. I did a video about this, and the reason I did the video is because I posted on Facebook, truck's dead on the road, whatever. And everybody had an opinion. Oh, it's the ignition switch. Oh, it's the alternator. Oh, it's the cable. Oh, you need to do this. Oh, you need to do that. And none of them were like particularly bad suggestions, but everything that I saw in the test that I did, to me, indicated that it was a starter. So it's probably a starter. So I called the local shop that I go to for my mufflers, because I don't want to go to the dealership if I don't have to.
Certainly.
And I said, look, guys, I think it's a starter. It's doing this, it's doing this, it's doing this. I know you don't do heavy electrical work, but I'm pretty confident this is just starter. So, it sounds like a starter to us too. Why don't we just throw a starter in it? So I was able to do it, for well under $400, opposed to going to the dealership and who knows what it would have cost me. So I did a video where I'm like, guys, this is the situation. Had a car problem, did some diagnostics, and everything told me it was a starter. Explained it to my mechanic. They said, yeah, it sounds like a starter to me too. It's probably what it is. And sure enough, it was the starter. It's kind of like your dance floor.
Yeah.
Where if you're looking at a crowd and you say to yourself, you look at them. Now, who was I looking at? I was looking at a lot of LGBTQ people, but I was also looking at families. And I'm thinking, and I'm looking at their age, and I'm thinking about who they are and what they may enjoy, and they might like anything, but they'll probably like some energy music and some disco and some fun stuff. Probably. Now, I might be completely wrong. Maybe they're into punk rock. Maybe they're into country. I don't know. But generally speaking, based on everything that I know about people and music, I'm thinking disco. It's the same thing with the car diagnostics. It's probably the starter. Now, it might not be. It could be something else, but that's what I'm thinking it's going to be. And if it's not the starter, if I try the starter and that's not what it is, I'll move on to the next thing. Just like when I'm programming a dance floor. If the disco wouldn't have worked, I would have tried something else. But it did. Because it's probably the starter. It's my analogy video. Mm-hmm. Some people got it, some people didn't.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me when people are diagnosing different things, and they'll look for the most difficult at times, where it's like eliminating the simple and progressing to and that can even, as you say, be on the dance floors to doing the simple to figure out the ultimate, what's going to be successful on the dance floor, instead of saying, oh, geez, I've got to go and I've got to do this and this and this and this and this, and maybe get the crowd up and do 4 line dances in a row. And it's like, maybe sometimes it's better to just look at the crowd and say, hey, you know what? They look like this might work. Let's give this a roll.
Right. And that's, in the real world of mechanics, what you do is the cheapest thing first. Yeah. If the cheapest thing is to check a fuse or a relay, then that's what you do. But you're still thinking to yourself, it's probably the starter, but let's try this. Let's try that. Let's try that. But it's probably the starter. It's probably what it is.
So $400 later, the truck is running and now parts.
Not even. I paid less to get my starter replaced without me doing anything in the street than I spent at the grocery store today. So. That was a good thing. They do good work and they're real cool. I love those people over there. I called up and they called it, Brian, they're Hispanic, they're Mexican, and they're very heavy Spanish. English is a second language for everyone. Yeah, Brian, your car's ready. I'm like, okay, how much? 1,000. I'm like, what? We do really good work here. That's because we do such good work. Well, since I don't have 1,000, how much should I bring? And it's going to be like, 340. Okay, I'll bring that. So, they're cool. They're cool. I like those people. But yeah, and I hate to hire things done like that, but I wasn't going to crawl around the street and do that myself with one arm.
Yeah, and you didn't have the opportunity of days to tackle that task.
It really ended up only costing me, if you really look at the math on it, I paid them about $160 to do it for me after parts. And I got my whole day, a night, and I didn't have to worry about anything. Right. So it would have taken me 8 times the length of time to do that job. So yeah, it made sense to hire it done for me. But yeah. So just stuff that happened this week. I'm just throwing out there.
Mm-hmm. So this week and weekend, I ended up getting. I've got a couple of weddings coming up, and I've got a couple of things that the couples. We've got the full online planning system where they can go in and enter songs and things. And the next 2 weddings, neither of them are doing that, and that's been a frustration a lot of DJs have. How to get the information back, and how do we do the planning and do this and that and other thing. Well, some of the information has been emailed over, so I have their itinerary and a few things. But the music is what I was really wanting to get those suggested songs. And both of these couples, and it wasn't by my suggestion, both of them have sent me links to their Spotify playlists.
Oh, yeah.
So I decided to go through and put to buy the pro version of Spotify, whatever that is. I don't know, $10 a month or whatever it was.
Sure.
Something to that effect. And I've been playing with that. First off, now that I have their playlists, I can go through and click on their playlist, and now I'm following it, and then I can click to download all the songs on their playlist. So now I have them all on my tablet or wherever I wanted to put them.
Right.
Then I can go through with Spotify, and there's 100 million songs or whatever. So you can go through and search and find, and I've been playing with that on the tablet while we were camping. We had a really horrible internet connection because I wanted to kind of test out how this is going to work. So we're up in the middle of the North Woods up in Minnesota, and the kids are, my littlest ones are, hey, can you play the, what was it? They wanted to play the SpongeBob theme song, and then they wanted to play another. Mario. Can we play a Mario? So it's like, okay, I'm using the Spotify thing and just taking weird requests from my children.
Yeah.
And even with basically it was about a half a meg connection. So it isn't a 2 meg, 5 meg. It's a half a meg connection or less going back and forth. We're able to use, in this particular case on the iPad, the DJ app, and download and play and move back and forth and do different things. It's interesting how that technology and such a being able to download and use the music is really come a long way. Because again, I'm up in the middle of the woods. I mean, there's pine trees behind me that are 4 foot in diameter, and here we are downloading music that could be used. So
I know people will swear by it.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy, but I know people will swear by it.
I'm not that guy either. I haven't. I've been using some streaming services. Say if I want to just play, Amazon Music as an example, or I want to play, let's go to the 70s station and let that plug along. And it works really kind of well with that. So Ian mentions Spotify with Virtual DJ 8. That's probably my next thing to play with a little bit, is to do that. My biggest concern is some of the songs I notice they say explicit on them. And some of the playlists, if I wanted to go and I think like the 80s rock, if you go and use like, oh, hey, 80s rock, great, I'm going to download this so I can play this while I don't have a connection. Well, you're going along and it's like, oh, wait a second, I think I did 90s rock. And there was a song from, I can't remember what the band was. One of the rock bands that Brian loves so much. And it said explicit. So it's like, oh, great. Okay.
Sublime or something wonderful.
Something, one of them like that. It's the band that sings Self-Esteem. I can't remember.
Outcast. Or
no.
The
Offspring.
The Offspring.
Yeah,
the
Offspring.
Outcast.
There we go. So it was an Offspring song, and it said it was explicit. I'm trying to figure out, because this song is in the playlist, and it's like 3 songs down. It's like, how do I get out of this? And I start clicking and doing, and the next thing I know, the song has jumped from being third down to all of a sudden it's playing. And it's like, how do I shut this thing off? And then thankfully it wasn't, nasty or profane or anything to that effect before I could shut it off. But it's like,
right.
So it's not a perfect science. And that's, buyer beware to a point if you're using that service. And there are songs in there that are explicit. I think somebody shared it last week or whatever that it's decent, but there's going to be things on there that a person just has to be aware of. And our friends from Promo Only and Prime Cuts and the others do a lot of cleaning up that we take for granted.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I don't know. I really enjoy having my own library.
Yeah.
It's my library. I know everything about it. And I have tracks that I've edited myself for different reasons. I've got slightly different versions of songs that are different than anything else that I've heard. And that just might be coming in on the one, opposed to like a guitar intro or something, or a vocal intro, but it still qualifies as a radio edit, not really a remix. Yeah, I really, really enjoy having my own stuff and not just kind of casting it out to the universe, hoping that I get a track that's going to work out. I mean, most of the time you're going to, but when you don't, oh, what suck is that,
Yeah, MJ did the track cleaner. He did a little segment on that one night, and I was way too new into Virtual DJ 8 to really be able to understand what he was doing. It's kind of like drinking from a fire hydrant when he's showing stuff, because he knows the stuff so much better. Rockin' Out mentioned needing newer stuff with extended intros to the mix. I know I've been using some of the Prime Cut, because Prime Cuts have really been coming out, and then Promo Only's been doing video. They're quick edits. And at a street dance that I did a couple of weeks ago, I ended up using, I think, about a dozen of those, of the quick edits, because there's some songs that just are, 4
In and out.
minutes. Yeah, this was in, and you had the beginning, so you could mix into it for 90 seconds to 2 minutes, and then you were out. And it's like, this is really cool.
The other thing I really like about having my own music is, I guess, what you would call plausible deniability.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody comes up and asks me if I have Tiptoe Through the Tulips by Tiny Tim, I can look at them and say, no, I don't.
We know you're
And
not.
I don't. Well, can you download it? No.
We know you have it, Brian. Tiny Tim was big. I mean,
well, he was large, but he wasn't big. He was big on, like, Laughing.
I was going to say, what show was it? Laughing or what?
I think it was Laughing that he would show up on once in a while.
Just as this all of a sudden,
yeah, him and Paul Lynn, would do the same kind of shows together.
Just yeah.
No, not big. And I can say no, I don't have it. And some people get upset. Well, why can't you just download it? Because I don't have that. I got my own music. And
I don't want.
I own this library. I own it. It's mine.
Brian mentioned that Spotify is not legal for performing. That there's virtually none of the music that we have is legal for performing unless we've gotten it from the radio or from our services. Anything we get from iTunes, Amazon, none of it is legal. The real question becomes: are we going to get busted for it? No.
Yeah, who's going to be the narc?
Yeah. The chance of us getting is really slim. For music
well, for
source,
private performance, you can do anything you want.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, if you want to
for
make
public performance, it's different. So, but private performance,
if you're on stage in front of 10,000 people or 20,000 people opening up for a major headliner, you probably want to be a little more careful about what you're doing there.
Right.
But for what we do most of the time, not so much.
Yeah, for private performance, you can do whatever the heck you want. I think. In the USA, it's different everywhere.
That's true. Yeah.
Little disclaimer there.
Of course, in Canada, they can buy their licensing for their music and things, and then they're covered. Which we don't have that. So one of the cool things while we were up camping, because when we're out on the road, it's like I can't shut the whole DJ side off completely.
You never can. I'm supposed to be taking a day off today, and it's not working out.
How'd that go for you? Well, you did shop, so you.
I went shopping. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. But we're up at the headwaters, and this is one of the oldest state parks in Minnesota. And this particular one, a lot of it was built up in the early 1900s, and specifically, most of the infrastructure was built between 1933 and about 37. Mm-hmm. And most of the infrastructure was built by two groups. One was the CCC, which was the Civilian Conservation Corps. You probably have seen buildings around the country, brick buildings typically, but they're old buildings that were built to a point, not slave labor, but they were young men between the ages of 18 and 25 who were being paid $30 a month to come in there and basically live and breathe and work and build these structures around the country as part of a government works program. Mm-hmm. So there were two different versions. There was the CCC, which were the guys 18 to 25, basically no money. They got out of school or whatever they did, and now they were unemployed. They went to this. Then, because of the veterans coming back from World War II who also couldn't find a job, there was the VCC, the Veterans Conservation Corps.
It's all FDR stuff,
all
right?
FDR stuff, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how this ties into DJs is that in Itasca, there were those two groups were up there, and each of them did different buildings because they couldn't get along and they couldn't work together because they would squabble and fight. It's just kind of like DJs. But that wasn't the point of this, is that when you look at the quality of work that they did, the very first building that the CCC, the young men, did up there, and you look at the rock work. Now, much of the early things that they did up there was basically rock, and then they would grout or cement the rocks together to make the foundation of the different log buildings. You look at some of the first ones they did, and they were very poorly done. They had the rocks. There was no shaping of the rocks. It was basically just grab the rock out of the field, set it there, move it around, and then cement it, right, and then just enough to get the next one on. So you've got a very coarse, rough-looking, obviously the roundness and such, but it just didn't look like a nice, clean foundation. So I kind of looked at that and I thought, this is kind of like it is when we start DJing, is we don't, in the case of the CCC guys, they didn't have the tools to cut the rocks properly. So they didn't have all the tools because they were just starting out. And you could see that they didn't have the knowledge. And because of that, what they were able to, in essence, they could have charged for that building if they were selling it, was a fraction of what they did 2 years later. Now that was the first building they did, I think, in 1934. It was that particular building. Now we go to a building that they did in 1935. Now that building, now they've learned how to do some of the cutting of rock and shaping of rock and being able to fit things together, and it looked 100% better. Yet we go over and look at the buildings that the VC, the veterans guys, veterans from World War I, what they were doing. There were craftsmen in that crowd where they were taking rocks and they were shaping, and they were laying them out and planning, and their grout lines between, or their cement between the bricks and rocks were much tighter. They were working with granite in many cases, and they were shaping them so you had some, instead of just basically box or what have you, they were doing angles, and they were doing symmetry in their layout. So they were having the same size on each side as they were coming in, doing arches and different things. You had the higher end guys, we'll call it over here, who were building things, and their product, the buildings that they made, to have those done today, some of those buildings, while not that big, were probably $1 million worth of labor in that. And it's just looking at that, and it's like, this is really, in many ways, just like the DJ world. You've got the guys who are young, who either don't have the tools or don't have the experience to do a really good job, but yet they're excited to do something, and they can still do things, and there's work out there for them, and they can do and perform and be able to do it. But yet there's a progression, and as people are wanting to have, maybe somebody wants to have a wedding DJ who's maybe a little more accomplished playing music. Well, the younger ones who are just getting into it probably aren't a good fit. Now I know that what I can bring to the table is a better understanding of music, or maybe a better gear, or whatever. I can bring more to the table than a new person.
Something I like to call artistic development.
Exactly, very much so. And then you
just
get to
learn by doing,
and such. Just experience is such a valuable teacher.
Sure.
And then when you get to the top end, where the gentleman who created that, and these were all men, obviously, because they were all men camps. But the gentleman who made that, the what did they call that? Some Inn is what that particular one was, which is interesting. The building used to be about 100 feet to the west, but because there was a county line there, and as soon as they had prohibition, this was a dry county and this was a wet county. So they went, beep, 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 and they moved it, and then they built it over. Yeah, yay.
So they could have a beer in there.
They could have a beer in there at a state park. Yes, that's interesting, because they don't allow beer in there unless there's a private event.
Right.
But it's just the craftsmanship and the pride, and you could just see their work spoke for itself.
Right.
And that is what we need to strive for, really, as performers, is that we need to have it so that our work speaks for itself, and people can just see or hear or be able to tell with very little prodding that, hey, we have a professional here who's doing a really, really good job. And that might mean simple things like the timing of your announcements, so you're not talking over lyrics. It might be the blending of your songs so that you're not having dead air. It might be the reading of the dance floor, so that you can go and have that dance floor that's having a flow, and you're changing, but yet you're not changing so much that you're completely losing your dance floor. But you can have that shift where you're losing, a third of your goes to get a drink, and maybe another third comes in, and a third stays, whatever that may be. But that you're a professional at your craft, and you are doing things at a level that is going to make it so people say, wow, that DJ really has it. Not that the best statement that you get from the wedding is like, oh, we loved your music. We danced all night. Well, yeah, that's it. But you know what? My iPad could play the songs you love, and you might dance all night to that. I want you to be able to say, wow, I just love the way you took us on a musical journey.
Right.
It was an incredible experience tonight.
Took us somewhere we weren't expecting to go.
Exactly. When you're talking about playing those deep disco songs, there's going to be people in the crowd. It's like, oh my God, I haven't heard that song forever. I love this.
Yeah. I was so excited to play some of that stuff too. It's like, oh yeah, I can actually get away with this. I can do this, and no one's going to look at me weird for doing it.
Yeah.
And I never thought I would ever be able to play this at a wedding, and here I am. So basically, I want to do same-sex weddings every single weekend now. If a bride calls me, I was going to tell her I'm booked.
Well,
unless she's marrying another woman.
I was just going to say, you need to ask a little, and I don't know how you could tactfully ask that.
Yeah, marrying a guy or a girl. Yeah, well, no, I'm not interested. Because you're gonna want to hear the same old crap that everybody wants to hear.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to play.
No, it was fun though, and I was able to actually. I really felt like I was DJing, at that event. I wasn't just going through the motions or doing what I was told. I was playing to a crowd that really was receptive to what I was doing. I really enjoyed it. It's funny because I got a call this just for the show. just before, like maybe an hour and a half ago. I got an email from. Okay, fine. Look, go back up. So I've been doing a lot of my own events, and I'm happy. I'm not working as much, all that kind of fun stuff, right? But once in a while, once in a great while, I get an agency gig trickle in.
Okay.
Ah, yeah, there's that agency gig. So I get an email from my agency with this attached email with this bride who's just trying to really plan things, with all these detailed instructions and all this stuff.
Right.
And it was Friday. And I'm like, I'm not doing this today. I'm thinking about, Andy and Fred's wedding. So I sent a nice email. Hey, thank you. I see everything that you want to do here. Let's talk next week. So she calls me today. And the deal is that she's part Mexican. Her family, her either, I think it's her dad's side is Mexican. And then everybody else is like white people, but there's a lot of people from her dad's side who are going to be attending her wedding. However, it's not really her wedding because they actually got married last year. This is just their wedding reception. So they're kind of casual about it. There's going to be a lot of people, 250 to 300 people at this event. And what the agency did was told them, oh yeah, we have a husband and wife team. He's Caucasian, she's Hispanic. They do this together. Well, here's the thing. Blanca does not talk on a microphone. She doesn't DJ. She does nothing. She stands there, looks cute, and she takes requests in Spanish if need be. Translates them to me. I play them. So anyway, to make a long story short, she was pretty nervous because she wasn't really sure what she was going to be getting.
Sure.
We had a very brief conversation, maybe 5 minutes. She's like, I am so glad that we talked today. I feel so much better. She didn't know. I mean, the agency kind of just assigned me to this gig, and she had nothing to go on. And just talking to me, just hearing me, kind of reason this out to her and explaining what's going on and how things, could work. And she just felt so much better. That experience shows you don't even have to go out there and play anything sometimes. You just have to talk the talk and know, what's going on, and put these people at ease. It's the hardest part of my job is to fill people out.
I mean, with the younger generation, that is, yesterday, 2 texts that came through. They could have called, but they sent texts. There's a Facebook message over the weekend that came in from a bride. The younger generation that isn't calling us, isn't talking, and yet I know from my college student age daughter, she loves to text, but she also kind of gets, there's a little bit of a thrill when she gets a phone call because it's such an oddity. I mean, when we grew up and we get that letter in the mail and it's like, oh my gosh, look, Mom, it's for me. That was an exciting thing.
Mail?
And then
Wow.
we got over that. And then it was like, oh my gosh, you've got mail. Did you see it's on a computer? And somebody said, and we were excited about that. Now now we're back to and
really
the phone call. I do think that you make a great point that just that 5 minutes sometimes conversation, and that's something I try to do with most of my couples if I can, a week, especially if they're not ones that want to talk, is just to call, and if nothing else, just leave a voicemail, because today I left 2 voicemails for my next 2 events, and say, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I went through your music list, because I did this a while ago, went through your music list, and I've got all the songs, and we're ready to go with that, and boy, it looks like a really fun music list. There must be somebody in the crowd that loves whatever, country, 50s, 60s, 80s, whatever it's heavy on the music list. And then I want to make a reference to that, and I think that the Elvis Presley's a great, and that's a favorite of mine too. So now they've heard my voice, which is probably the biggest part. I mean, they've obviously heard my voice on video before, but now they've heard my talking to them, and that calm, reassuring, and I'm not some spastic weirdo.
Right. Yeah, I've done this. This is my first rodeo.
Exactly, and I can talk a little bit about some part of their day. If I wouldn't have the music to talk about, I would go with a different angle. I was just looking at the itinerary, and it's looking like a great flow as you guys are going from the ceremony to the reception site. I'm really excited because when you guys hit the door, we're going to have a great time.
This particular client, she was, I was trying to read all this in the email. It was all kind of jumbled. She was all over the place, but she was trying to express some thoughts. And on the phone, she said, well, we're actually going to start at 3:00, but I know that we only have you from 5 to 11. So that's fine. We're just going to do that, and we'll do something. And then we talked a while, and I said, look, about that 5 to 11 thing that you were talking about. If you want me there at 3, we can work that out.
Right.
We can, but the contract says 4 to 11. I'm like, well, I know that, but if you need me at 3, let's figure it out. We'll figure something out. Don't worry about it. I don't know, just trying to do this stuff without the human touch. It's just cold, and it looks like you see it in print, so you think, okay, this is how it has to be, and here are my limitations, and I can't do more than this. When you actually discuss things and can, get it out there, everything just seems to go smoother. There seems to be more understanding.
I think so.
I don't know.
And if nothing else, it gets back to, as you said earlier, really kind of helps take the stress load or the pressure off them. And they're like, oh, I've talked to Brian.
Right.
And that's such a huge relief, of course, for them from their side. And what if it makes our day a little bit easier come wedding day? Yay, rah, rah. I'm all for that.
I'm just so relaxed, man, with this workload I've had lately. It's just been relaxing. I've been busy. I've had things to do, but I'm not dealing with this crazy different bride every weekend, and I love it.
Yeah.
I just love it. And when I do have a bride, it's this.
Mm-hmm.
Even an agency gig, it's this. I'm calm, she's calm, or I calm her down, but it's not like she was, inconsolable before. She was just a little, oh no, who is this guy? We haven't talked to him. Well, here you go. Here I am, and here's what I do. And yeah, we can do this, and that's not a problem. And here's what's really happening. And I don't know. It's been a real good year.
Mm-hmm.
Much better year than my previous years, especially since my stroke. I hate to bring that up, but I'm trying to do things that everybody does, but I can't. Right. I gotta do it a different way where it works for me, and it's actually possible. And I'm not beating my brains out. And this is just, it's been wonderful. Had the best summer as a DJ that I've had, or as a person, I've had the best summer that I've had in a long time. Just relaxed.
And I think now we're going to get away from the DJ side of it, but I think one aspect that I really am kind of envious that you've been doing is the whole concept of not taking on more projects or not starting more projects until your current projects are wrapped up. And this sounds like such a little simple thing, but just that idea, and it's like, it's such a liberating thing that, okay, you know what? I'm not going to take that on until we've got this completed. And once we have this completed, then we'll move on to the next thing. It's so simple, but we don't do it.
I made that New Year's resolution almost 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm still not there, but I haven't taken anything new on. I haven't. I very badly want to buy a truck. I want a toy. I want to do this and that to it. But you know what? I can't, because there are some things that are just floating around out there that I haven't finished. So I got to get closer to wrapping those, and then we can move on. Once my entire house is in order, every single thing in my house, including the vehicles in my driveway, are in order, I can move on to something else. It is very liberating to live like that, to just one step at a time. It keeps you motivated too.
Yeah.
You want something really bad, you work really hard to wrap up your stuff.
Precisely. Let's see. There was something else I wanted to chat about. Next week, we're going to be talking about product, new gear that's going to be released at DJ Expo, which will be the week after. I think I talked to a couple of companies today that we both have worked with Brian, and they're going to release some information early, hopefully, so we can talk about it next Tuesday night when it's going to be released. I think some is going to be Wednesday and some is going to be Thursday was the release time. So if things worked out, we should have some stuff to talk about. 2
companies that I know are looking at Monday releases on things.
And there's, more things are coming on Monday too. There's going to be a busy week. There's, I think, three emails today came in with the embargo, which is, I'm glad they do that now, because in the past when we start out, we were looking at the emails and they don't put the embargo at the top, and you're like reading down, it's like, oh my gosh, copy paste, boom, up to social media, and then I continue reading down. It's like, keep this embargoed until da 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 da.
Yeah.
Crap.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've got stuff I'm still hiding under my hat here. I mean, nothing physical. because there's nothing physical here anymore. I did go to UPS yesterday and sent a lot of stuff away.
And some
But
of
I got video before I went away.
some of the stuff you guys got to see if you watch the commercial as we started tonight.
Some of that.
Some of that.
I learned about something new today too. They're gonna EV, and I can speak about it because I can't speak about the ADJ stuff because they're not talking about it yet. But EV is starting to throw stuff out there, something I didn't even know about, and you probably did and had one up on me. So I was so focused on the Evolve 50.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing the ETX 200 series.
ELX. That would be
It's the ELX.
ELX 200 series. That's the
okay.
That would be the Live X is what initially. So the
Okay,
first
gotcha.
it was ELX and then ZLX and then or ETX and then EK. So they're going in order and upgrading the oldest one in the line.
Gotcha. That makes more sense.
Tate asked about the topic tonight. Tonight's just kind of a general.
We're just all over the damn
We're just
place.
all over the place tonight. And if you're looking for, there is maybe a nugget or two, an idea or two we're going to share, but it's going to be more of it's more just kind of off. Next week is going to be new gear. We're going to be talking.
I tried to stay on track for the first 20 minutes.
Oh, we did. No, we've
Like I really tried to give them something solid.
Yeah,
you know?
we had some. There's some good stuff in there if they think about it. And I know DJs hate to think about things.
Tate Pearson wants things to be more structured.
Yes, we need sound drops and titles. Well, that's my idea. That it wasn't Tate.
And Brian should shave.
Yeah, there.
So I have a weekend off.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm not working this weekend, although I am working this weekend. I think probably I'll probably still end up going out there for something.
This weekend I'm actually doing a wedding at a campground out in the middle of western Minnesota, which will be an interesting thing. It's at a campground for 50 people. We're doing ceremony, and I've got three Spotify playlists for this wedding. I've got the ceremony, and we're doing the dance, dinner and a dance, but we're doing them outside in different locations around the grounds, we'll call it. So this is one of those weekends. That little Evolve system would have been a great time to play with it. But
Anytime's a great time to play with that little system.
Well,
I couldn't believe what I mean. I'm not saying I used it last weekend. I'm just saying that if I did use it last weekend, and I did have it in my gig log where you could like hear what it sounded like at a gig, if that were the system that I had there, it would have sounded pretty nice.
Yep.
So I'm not saying that's what it was. I'm just saying if it was that system, it sounded good.
Oh,
and we're fine in that room, and it's a challenging room. That was a glass and concrete nightmare.
Wow.
And still beautiful. Worked out real nice.
Very nice.
I didn't do anything special either. I just ran it flat, and it worked beautiful.
We're good. Okay. Gear tease, Robin, we're gonna we've got everything coming for. There's lighting. There's new controllers that'll be new speakers. There's next week's show is going to take some time, and that's after we're going to be focusing on only a couple of brands on Tuesday night, but we're going to on Monday night be focusing on a lot of the side brands and such that, but our couple of our main sponsors we're going to be hitting on Tuesday night, and having some fun and going into some in-depth discussion on those. So that will be a lot of fun.
I think I'm going to get released to talk about most everything by Tuesday. So
yeah, I think everything should be
all right.
Should be good. And then we'll be coming from DJ Expo the week, which will be the week after. We're going to do something from Expo. Now the question becomes is if we do something live or if we do something where we record in the hallway and then we put it up a little bit later. But Brian and I will do something. It's just a question of when we shoot it and how things go, because unfortunately when you're at these shows and there's people going here and there, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, you need to be here to go and shoot this. And it's like, oh, well, okay.
I got dinner plans on Tuesday.
So
otherwise I'm free.
We'll figure something out.
After dinner, I'm free. Before dinner, I'm free. So yeah, pretty free guy.
Yeah, we'll figure some things out, and we have a better internet connection down at.
We should wrap this show so I can eat my peanut lovers check mix.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
dying to eat
we're gonna
here.
be on our way here. Tomorrow night, I think we're going to do I think we're gonna come back and I'm gonna do a show tomorrow evening because there's a couple of things we wanted to do musically, and practice with a couple of things. So I think we're gonna try that, and that's going to be because after Expo, then and we're hoping that because Brian, I'm gonna bring that mixer with me to AC if you've got room for it.
Oh, okay.
So there's a couple of things that I wanted to show, and it might be just easier to show you live.
Sure.
So we'll figure it out. But and that way we'll be ready for our fall when we start doing our monthly. Want to do a monthly music show where we basically just go and play and talk and have some fun with that. So anyway,
I'm going to attempt to do some live streams from my Facebook page too.
awesome.
That's the Brian S. Red Facebook page, not the Brian Scott Red personal page of mine. That's the fan page. You got to like it or follow it. But I'm going to try to start doing some live streams from that, just to talk about maybe some Q&A, but it's just a different format. We're going to give it a try and see how it works. If it doesn't work, we'll stop doing it. But if it's cool, we'll keep doing it.
Have some fun with that. Ace asked about Photo Booth Expo 2018. I will be down, and I'm not sure, Brian, if you'll be down for Mobile Beat next year.
Yeah, probably.
Probably. And they're at the same time. But we're going to... DJNTV is actually going to be doing a lot. We're going to be doing a lot of live broadcasts during the show and doing a lot of things with Mobile Beat next year. So there will be a presence there, and Brian will be down there and doing some different things, I'm sure, as he typically does at the shows. So
hanging out at that one.
Yeah, if you're going
to and hang.
If you're going to be at Photo Booth, you'll be able to shuttle over, and I'll be bouncing back and forth between the two a little bit, but I'll have more of our staff will be covering Photo Booth Expo because I will be doing a lot of interviews and such at the main show. So wonderful. Thank you guys for being with us. If you followed us on Facebook or YouTube, have yourself a wonderful evening. If you get a chance, follow my personal Facebook page. I'll be putting links up for any shows we're going to do tomorrow night, and have a great weekend. We'll catch you next week. Good night, everyone.